Well, here we're back, Josh. We were off last week, and my mistake, my apologies. We get really look. It's been crazy. This industry is on fire, and
That it is.
it is. I mean, we've been talking about that for a while, and last year was crazy as we really kind of diving deep into the virtual process, and then November 1st. I don't think I can't remember what a good night's sleep was, really. I mean, it's been absolutely nuts. And new records are being broken. We broke a record last week, and we've got 500, I think 500. Have we topped 550 on the call? So pretty close, huh? Yeah. 550. We went over 500, I think it was last week or week before. That's 500 people on a daily call. So coaching call every week to just coach people on the success of selling life insurance, mortgage protection, final expense, and virtually. So, listen, Josh and I wanted to come on today because I really wanted to kind of dive into the mindset of what it takes to be an elite producer. No matter what I mean, it doesn't matter if you're selling life insurance, you're selling cars. There's a mindset, I think, that is really, really important when it comes to, setting the correct expectations, for what you're doing, and then be willing to do the work. Do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, no matter what. And I think that's where, look, a lot of people can learn the skills, Josh. I mean, you can teach anybody the skills, right? I mean, what we do is not that complicated. But if you're not willing to do the work and you're not willing to be coachable and you can't control that 6 inches between these 2 years, I think you're doomed. I don't care how good you are in the skills. What do you think?
I think you're 100% dead on. I think so. To kind of delve in, here's where I think a lot of people go wrong is not willing to do the grind. So I was kind of reflecting, I was reflecting on it this morning when I was driving back from the gym. That's because I knew that you kind of wanted to touch on this topic today. So I was just kind of thinking. I was thinking about my past, right, and how I've always the best word my resilience is probably the word I would kind of use, right? Just like anybody else, I've had struggles in my life. I've had things where I've kind of fallen down. There's been lows in my life. But the one thing is I know all throughout the history is that I should knock on wood, I've never really hit complete bottom, right? Where sitting up there, my point being is there's always been a struggle, but I've always put, like your term that you use, I've always pushed out. I've never regressed. So I've always had that mindset to, I'm in it to fight. I ain't giving in. I'm not caving. Things are tough right now, but I can control that. So it's having that control mentality and attitude going, I can control my future, right? I can dictate what happens. My actions dictate my future, right? So it's always having that mentality of pushing out, right? And having that resilience, being willing to be in the grind, right? And sit up there, then not just being in the grind, but establishing. Well, let's touch on that, and I can get a little bit deeper because I could tell that look when you're following along. But some comments are coming to mind. But so if you don't lose that,
thanks for mentioning that, because I didn't mention that earlier. If you have any comments or questions you want to ask Josh while he's talking, put them in the chat box. I'm watching it, but look, I'm happy to have him here today. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Josh was, came to us, I think 2.5 years ago, and within the first 6 months had already earned over $100,000 in an industry he had never been in before. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit too. We'll get into that as we go. But if you have any specific questions you want to ask, put them in the chat box. I'm watching, and we'll get him to answer that. So go ahead, Josh.
So the follow up on that is not just being in the grind, but being willing to trying to think of a proper way to do this without being so crass is feeling, just kind of like the title of the podcast, being willing to do the hard S, which you can only use your imagination what that stands for. Okay. We're going to keep this child friendly, sit up there, but it's being willing to do that, right? Being willing to push, right? Being willing and actually following direction, right? And creating that consistency. And this is a big one, right? It's really been big. My strength is always been being able to develop that consistency, right? And sometimes, yes, you're having to force yourself to do it for a period of time because, what do they say? Was it They say if you do the same habit, the same thing, was it 90 days or is it 60 days?
I think it's, I don't know. I think it's 90 days.
90 days. But anyways, the point is it's kind of irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that you can push yourself.
Long enough.
If you could push yourself for a length of time, being conscious of it, then it'll become natural of doing those actions each and every day, right? And if you need to develop that skill of being able to create those habits and those routines, right? It's sent up there, like I'll kind of use the analogy that just for real life scenarios. COVID happened. Guess what? I'm an avid gym goer. Everything else that goes along with that. I had a routine of going to the gym every day. All of a sudden that became to the halt because they're closed, right? So I was having to do, improvised workouts at home and everything else. But guess what got taken away from me in that process? It took away that habit that I had each and every day for a long period of time. So you can lose those habits as quickly as you gain them. So I had to step back, which is it's a developed skill of mine anyways. So I had to recreate that habit again. I had to consciously make myself get up and get that certain time and go in and do that every morning, do that drive, because I did get used to not making that drive for a period, right? Because I was doing it at home, right? And even though that I wanted to get back in the gym and do the tougher stuff that I'm used to doing and that I wasn't able to do, right? So I had to create that routine again, right? So being conscious of knowing that you're going to create your own habit. You have to create that. It's not just going to happen overnight. You have to control and create that habit. And it's not making excuses for creating that habit. It's that roller coaster effect, right? Of going, stay on here for a period of time and thinking that you can back off for a day or do it just a couple days and jump back into it. That's hard to create a habit by doing that, because if you create one excuse, it's easy to create the excuse again.
Right.
Right. And it's being conscious of your decision making. Right. And it's up there, not giving yourself the leeway to create that excuse. Right. It's up there. It's like, no, just create that, have that habit. Because if you have that habit each and every day, it's just natural at that point. It should be a lot of those habits and routines, especially when it comes to running your business, should be mundane. They should be boring. Right. They shouldn't be like something that's going to be exciting for you every day. It's just something you do. Right. It's a routine. It's obviously, when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I find that success is found in mastering the mundane. And I think that's what trips most people up, is that they're just not willing to be consistent in the activity of the mundane. They get bored with it, whatever. They try to tweak it. There's an old saying, your greatest strengths lies right next to your greatest weaknesses. And sometimes people that are creative tend to be creative when it comes to following a system. And that's death, right? You want to follow this system that's been time tested and proven to work, and kind of, so I was reading something earlier, maybe it'll come to my mind here before long, but it was all about trying to put limits on your, what was the word for it? On your goals, not goals, but on your vision. In other words, sometimes you get this grand picture of things that you want to run after, and you kind of limit. You got to somewhat limit that and be successful one step at a time. Otherwise, it becomes overwhelming, right? And again, we talk about all the time is mastering the mundane. The success is found in the mundane, but you got to be willing to stay in it long enough to see results. And unfortunately, there's a book out called 3 Feet from Goal. That's what it's all about. Is most people quit 3 feet from the win. And I find that part of that is because they gave quitting an option to begin with. My problem in my life, I don't know about yours, Josh, is that I'm sure you're very similar, is that I don't know how to spell the word quit. And I usually stay too long when I should have quit 2 years ago, right? Because the opportunity changed and it moved in a direction I wasn't willing to go, or it dried up. And I'm still trying to make it work, and the ship's sailed. That's been my problem. It's never been quitting too early. It's been quitting too late, because I just don't want to quit. I feel like, no matter what my age is, if I put my mind to something and I burn all the bridges, that's the other thing. You can talk about that as well, is that I've never been a plan B person either. People come in this industry and they got a full-time job. They're sticking their toe in on insurance. and then they got this, other thing going on over here. I mean, I talk to people that got 4 or 5 or 6 things they're doing. And I find I related to my, show my age. I related to my parents who had, the old console, the old hi-fi. I don't know if you remember those things or not, Josh, you're probably too young, but the old hi-fi where it had a turntable, it had an 8-track player in it. I mean, it had everything in this big wooden box, and they dreamed of someday owning a hi-fi because it's all in one. And the problem is that none of it was any good. You put it all in one box, something is compromised, and usually it's quality. Right. And so I find that to be the case here. In a lot of people, they're trying to do too many things. They're no good in any one of them, because you can't learn something when you're in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out.
Well, they got a saying for that, right? So, what is that? If I can't even think. I should have been brought it up because I can't think of it right now. But basically, you get yourself there. You're a master of none, and whatever that saying is. But that's around for a reason, right? Because is that you can't think that you're going to be able to spread yourself out and think that you're going to be really good at one of them, right? And I think you nailed it 100% on that.
Yeah,
it's naive at best to think that you can, right? And
yeah. I mean, what we do. First of all, I don't think we're in sales. I think we're more in the educational process. We educate people on their options based on their, medical conditions, age, and budget. I'm sure anytime you get paid a commission, it gets written into law that it's sales. But I really think it's an educational process. I think I can teach that to anybody on how to do that process. It's a simple business, not always easy because you're in business for yourself, not by yourself with our system. I think we have the best system on the planet with helping people with the 4 areas, the 4 Ps we call them, of success. But we won't go down that road because we'll be talking about that for an hour. But the point is that, once they learn that, as I said earlier when we were starting the podcast today, is some of that stuff's out of your control. One, as a coach, because you can teach somebody the process, right, and the theory of and all those things, but keeping them straight between the ears. There's too many outside influences going on in this world today, and most of them are negative. Where that's the biggest challenge is getting people to. And here's the other thing, Josh. You can talk about this too. Share a little bit about your past, whatever you're willing to share. But Josh, you didn't come in here with any experience in the industry. In insurance, you didn't really apply your previous experience to this industry either. I mean, there's obviously some of it is a natural ability that you have, but it wasn't like what you were doing before translated very well into this business. But you came in here coachable, you had a great work ethic, and you had a desire to succeed and excel, which I think, given any opportunity, you'd be at the top of your class. Because again, you know how to control your mindset. You're a driven person, and most people aren't. They're not willing to burn their bridges and and do whatever it takes to win. Right?
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think some of it boils down to confidence, right? And I know some people aren't naturally confident, but you're able to build confidence. There's lots of things that you can do to build confidence, right? And a lot of that is educating yourself, right? Is one. Is fueling your brain. You should constantly be educating yourself, learning something new every day, right? And it doesn't necessarily always have to be like in the business that you're in or whatnot. It can be a hobby or something else, but you should constantly be feeding your brain constantly that fuel, because that's how self-improvement is something that builds confidence, right? The better you get at things, the easier it is for you to build confidence in things. So confidence dictates your decision making, right? And it's kind of goes back to this a little bit, because I guarantee you, like in our business here, I guarantee you there's some people that have a list of appointments. They're ready to go. I got appointments here. I'm excited, ready to go, and then they have a no-show or something, right? And I think I guarantee you there's some that are there that have a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a sign of that's a sign of lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Because they're relieved and not realize how much it's costing them. So what that does, and that's a downward spiral, because now they're like, they sit up there. Now they're scheduling less appointment, because they think they're no showing and it expires. But anyways, my point is that you gotta put everything in your direction to build your confidence, right? And it all comes in making certain actions. Like in our field, it's mastering booking a bunch of appointments, right? Putting the numbers in your favor. And that's going to kind of transition. You mentioned about my background. The only thing that I was able that transitioned over to this business is my knowledge of the numbers game.
Yeah.
Right. Numbers don't lie. Is that you sitting up there? Is that numbers sitting up there? More numbers equal more results. Right. It's just the fact of life. Right. And it's so that's that's the one thing that I was able to pull over is so that built my confidence, knowing to be able to jump all in, knowing, okay, I know numbers will not lie. No matter what, I throw massive activity and massive numbers at it, I'll win. Right. Whether I have a bunch of knowledge or whether I'm any good at all, that's all irrelevant at the end of the day. Right. You can outrun anything with massive activity and numbers. Plain and simple. Right. So knowing that fact and believing in that fact, guess what that does, Steve? It builds confidence. And you build confidence. Guess what? When people see it's a spiraling effect, right? So people see that you're confident and you're forthcoming. Guess what? So when you're presenting to somebody, if you're in sales or something there, when you're presenting, people feel that confidence, right? And when they feel that confidence, they like you more. And they like you more. What do? They do business with you.
Right. Exactly. 1,000%.
Right. It's a spiraling effect, right? So it's all relevant, right? So that little choices in your life of a simple thing of building your confidence and giving yourself some self-improvement stuff will go do wonders in your future. You are investing that's investing in yourself, not just in yourself, but for your future, right? Some of it's not necessarily be an immediate payoff, because it's an educational time, right? But it's about the long-term haul, right? It's about the long game, right? And the aspect of, right? It's like when you're working the numbers, right? We always preach that's the law of large numbers, right? It's not the law of the immediate numbers, right? In the small group, it's on the spectrum of a week, of a month, of a year, right? However, which way you want to look at it. Those are the numbers that you look at to give you an accurate depiction, right? So, yeah. And then I would almost not the hog this. Now you got me going on a rant here.
Good.
Now I'm on a roll. Is it so? You kind of go in just as you go. I'm just going to mention this here, guys. Most of the part you'll never see anything scripted. This is all going to be normally be off the cuff, right? We're how we truly feel and what we really think. Whether it's going to be accurate or not, or sit up there or be the truth for everybody. I think I will always touch off the guidelines of human nature, right? And that experience, right? Because it might not necessarily be something that you read in a book. All we can go off of is experience, right? And what we've seen and what we do, and by action and by education, right? So with that said, I want to kind of take the book back step a little bit, is because it kind of fuels off a little bit off of the choices that you make, right? It's sitting up there is looking for excuses. Like kind of when I mentioned, that person that was relieved about an appointment not showing up or something like that is how are you going to grow your business, or not even grow your business, just even life choices, right? Things are going to happen. Bad things will happen, right? You'll trip, you'll fall, things will happen. Are you looking for a reason why not to do that thing again because you fell down? Or are you looking for solutions for it doesn't happen, or for you get better at it, right? Those are two choices. There's no in between. So when those actions happen, are you going to make the decision just not to do that thing again because you failed or because you fell down? Or are you going to be that person that comes up with a solution how you're going to get better at that? Or how not to do that again, right? Those are two choices, two distinct, and they're on two totally different spectrums of the screen, right? Two totally different sides. There is no in between. When those things happen in your life, you have one of two choices. That is it. There is no in between. You're either gonna push in or push out. That is it. Right? There's no in between. So it's about coming up with solutions, right? And it's up there, and the only reason I mentioned this, Steve, this was what it was in that period of my first 6 months, right? So I'll give you guys a little bit of a story, right? This was in 2019, right? Is towards the end. Sitting up there, I was going down appointments that I had. They're 3 hours away, right? I haven't hit the highway to get out of town yet. I left my house. I was only like 15 minutes from my house, and sit up there, and my car takes a giant, whatever. I wanted to use a foul language, but anyways, it took a dump on me, right? But it's right. So I am sitting there. I'm like, solution. My wife is out of town, right? She's out of town. So I call my sister-in-law, sitting up there, saying, "Are you home?" She's sitting up there. She's like, "Yeah, okay. I need you to grab the neighbor, and I need you to go to my house." And because she had a key to get inside my house, I said, "I need you to go inside. I need you to grab Katie's keys, and which is my wife. Have her grab my keys. Bring her car to me. My car took a crap. I have appointments I need to get to. Bring that to me, please. Thank you." Guys, sitting up there, so I heard her on a mission to get me my car, and I left my car right there in a parking lot. And guess what I did? I hit the road and drove 3 hours to my appointment, right? And it's the only reason I mentioned that, and that's not to enlighten myself or whatever word you want to use. It's to pat myself on the back. It's to set an example. Is the question is how you become strong at what you do. How do you become better? Well, it's making those choices, right? It's making those choices of whether you're going to cave or where you're going to push out. Going, I ain't failing today, right? I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed, right? And I wasn't going to because it would have been easy for me to go, well, what am I going to do? My car broke down. I can't run those appointments now. What am I going to walk? I could have sat there and thought everything that could have went through my head on every reason why I can't run the appointments or why I couldn't go and do it. That's the easy part. Sitting there thinking of the reasons why you can't, why you won't or can't, or whatever negative word you want it, connotation that you want to throw at it, or how can I solve this solution to the problem that I have immediately right now? How can I get my appointments ran? How can I do it? I'll be honest with you. If it was one of those things where my wife is out of town and she had the car that's up there, I would have called the first car rental place and had a car brought to me. Right? That would have been my alternative, being willing to do that. Because that would have been a small cost compared to the thousands of dollars that I made that day. Because I think particularly that day, the reason actually that day stands even more in my mind today is not just necessarily that choice of making that choice, is that the business that I did that day also, and being late. I was late to all those appointments, and I think I did like $3,000 of business that day, right? Or it might have been a little bit more. It's kind of irrelevant. I did business that day, and even if I had to rent a car, that would have been a very small expense compared to the money I made that day. Yeah. Right. So making that other choice could have cost me thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but that is the point, right? I love the ant, by the way. I talk about this all the time. Is the definition of an ant? Ant, the little thing that crawls across the ground, and that is, and again, this is a quality that I think people have to understand and develop. And that is that most people, I would say 98, Josh, maybe 99% of people that were faced with that situation, they'd have folded up the tent and go home. The whole day would have been destroyed. They'd have been angry. They may not even call their appointments and reschedule. They just packed it in, went home, and you get a call and say, day was crap, and I had my car broke down, and I had to reschedule all my appointments, and I went home and got a crying towel to suck on or something. I don't know what it is, but that's the difference maker. That's the needle mover in people's success, like yours, is that there's an old saying that the grass is always going to be, going to need to be mowed. For years, I could write a book on excuses. Why were you on the call today? Well, I had to go to the doctor's. Oh, my son had to go to the dentist. Oh, I love this one. I was driving to work. I mean, seriously, we have Bluetooth in this world. And you can't tell me. See, you need to, exactly. You need to check yourself. Then, you need to check up the neck up when you use excuses like that and get in your face, stand in the mirror and say, hey, is that a valid excuse? Because I'm driving to work, I can't log on to a conference call and listen to my Bluetooth ear. But if my family member called, my kids called, or somebody was sick and I had to take them I had taken that call. What's the difference? The difference is you're not passionate enough about, that's that missing burning desire to succeed. Right? Because you miss the point that somebody, maybe on this podcast today, something that's said might unlock your brain and change the way you think. And if you change the way you think, you're going to change your income level. Period. But that's my point. I was so proud of you. I remember that day. And I think the next day you went out and bought a new car. But you went on to your appointments. Everybody else would have gone home.
Well, the funny thing is that it's funny that you even mentioned that, how we have Bluetooth and we have everything else, is that when I was buying my new car, we had our Friday night call. And while I was buying my car, I was on the call.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always going to be easy to look for the reason why you can't and you won't. That is the easy part of life. But that is the reason, if you're making those choices, why you are not getting ahead, why you are stagnant or you are struggling, is because you are looking. You may not be looking for it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but you are making that choice of to look at finding the reason why you can't do it.
Yeah,
and that's a subconscious thing. As human beings, people look if there's a little bit of adversity, it's easier to say, oh, I can't do that, or I won't be able to do that. Yeah. I'm not good enough for that, versus giving it a shot and being willing to fail. That's fine. You may not be able to do it. You may have a hard time. Everybody's going to fall down. When you're a kid growing up, it's always been a great analogy. When you're learning to walk, when you're a young one, how many times do you think you fell down? You think your parents should have been sitting there, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. You may fall down. You may scrape your knees. Don't do it. No, they knew you're going to fall down. And the funny thing is, most of the time, your parents are laughing at you a little bit because it's cute because of how you fell down.
Yeah.
Right. But you're going to get bumps and bruises. Sitting up there, that is life. My point is that we start out life that way. Yeah. Just by learning how to walk.
With a huge desire to learn how to walk. Because everybody else is walking. You don't want to be the only moron not walking. So you learn so you keep falling down. I'm going to walk. Yeah. The problem is we grew up and became adults, and now all of a sudden our tenacity changes or something. I don't know what it is. Somebody along the way told us and stole our dreams that just because Josh Collar can be an elite producer doesn't mean that I can be an elite producer. Josh has got some inside track to success. It's not true. Look at everybody who's had massive success in this world. Most of them just went for it. They burned all their bridges, right? And they woke up every day, 24/7, thinking about succeeding and driving towards that and pushing everything else aside. Look, as I said earlier, if you're looking for an excuse, you'll find one. It doesn't matter what it is. I tell people, look, if you don't even make one up. Just tell me the grass needs mowed and you can't make it to the night's call. It doesn't matter what it is. It's they're all you bought that excuse, so use it. The reality of it is that the people that are successful learn how to push everyday life events off and say, I know the grass needs to be cut. I know the house needs to be painted. Right? I needed the car. Right now, my Jeep needs an oil change. It's needed an oil change for 3 months. I'll get to it. It's not the most. It's not a priority right now. I mean, I'll get to it. Right now, what's the priority is capitalizing on this industry right now and the virtual sales, where you got people making $100,000 a month, working 4 days a week from home. Being part of that movement, paradigm shift in the industry, only has come around maybe twice in 40 years. The oil change will wait. If I blow the engine, I don't care. I'll get a new engine. But I want to be part of this movement. It's probably the last time in my lifetime that I'll have a shot. That's the point. Is that sense of urgency because of the fear of loss. If I miss this, it's my last shot. How do you teach that? Right? It's part of it is personal development. Part of it is, I learned a couple of years before you came on board, Josh, because I struggle with this, and I know it's actually something you could talk about because I know you're a big gym person. You go to the gym at hours in the morning where I'm full on sleeping, right at that point in my day. But the point is that I learned. I finally I've always been driven to succeed. I've always wanted to. One of my goals was to change the legacy of my family by being the first millionaire, and so that drove me. So I never really gave myself an option for doing too much outside of business. And it occurred to me one day that, look, I give this business and people that are involved in this business with me, 24 hours a day. I'm going to take 1 hour for myself. And I started going on walks for 45 minutes to an hour, just walk, right? And just spend time with myself for that hour, invest in myself for that hour. And, it changed me dramatically because it gave me the ability to quiet the noise and do some goal setting, analyze where I'm at, look at myself in the mirror, and talk honestly with myself for that 45 minutes to an hour. And I know you do that by giving yourself that gym time every day. Take that out of your life. And what's life look like if you're not giving yourself that time?
God, it's not just that. I mean, it's a downward spiral, right? Is one of the things that it boils back down to that confidence thing again, right? And it's kind of I hate there, and this isn't a political statement or anything else, but it's kind of like what during COVID, what's a big thing that went on the rise, right? Suicides, depression, anxiety, bunch of negative aspects, kind of evolved from that, right? It's because people were forced to kind of be lazy, right? An aspect and not doing stuff, being active, right? And it's not meaning, going out and physically doing stuff, but being active in life, right? It's up there. And if you're not doing positive aspects for yourself, then you are regressing. You are becoming lesser, right? And that's kind of the best way that I can kind of put that a little bit versus putting things. I kind of want to touch it because when you mentioned this gym, just an analogy kind of popped in my head that I just can't. It's burning, and it's another, so it's distracted me a little bit. Is kind of go back to the gym. It's kind of like I want to kind of reflect like gym activity and being able to push yourself, right? Is to like our business, right? When you're doing a system-based business, I want to kind of use this analogy, right? Is kind of, so like I use squatting as an example because out of all the exercise that you can do, right? Legs is the one that everybody tries to avoid, right? And definitely squatting, right? And so to be able to push yourself to failure on an exercise like squatting, right? I always use this analogy is that being able to push yourself, you're on that one rep and you're going, oh man, you're about ready to give it in. But being willing to push yourself to do that last rep, right? There's a lot of people, even if you got the safety bars on there, if for some reason you just can't make it out of the hole, right? You got safety bars that are going to catch the bar. So you're not going to hurt yourself. But even though people know consciously, even if they don't make it, that they won't get hurt because they got the safety bars there, that still don't push for that last rep because it's still that fear. My point is kind of transferring that over is people are still make that same choice when they have safety bars with the system. And they still make the choice of not moving forward, right? Because they have all these safety boards of all the scripts and all the layout on how to run the business, and they still don't do that last rep or that first rep at that go, right? And it's up there. So it's those decisions are all transferable, right, to one another, right? And it's even when you're doing those choices for self-development, they transfer over to your business, right? And to your professional life on how it's about your decision-making.
Yeah.
Ability.
So how do you change that? Are you a reader, Josh?
Yeah. Not as much as I used to, just because there's so much, everything's so online now, right? So it's a lot. Like I don't really read anymore. It's audio. It's a lot of it's audio, right? It's up there because I can do it on the go a lot more. So even a lot of books that I do are audio. I always look for audio there. I can't. Which has kind of spoiled me because I never used to be a big faller asleep when I was reading, but now just because I've done so many audiobooks, when I go to sit down and do paper, then I tend to get tired, and I don't like getting tired. Yeah. I'm not a nap person. I'm not none of those ones. It blows me away, those that can go and take a nap in the middle of the day. Like, well, take a nap. That shoots my whole day. Sit up there, right? Sit up there, but it's so I don't like that feeling. So I try to stick to audio now. But I do that. I do read, self-development.
Coaching calls. Are you any coaching calls, podcasts?
I do a lot of podcast stuff, different things that interest me or that help develop my mindset, or just a lot of it's not, to keep myself in check. Right. And it's, and here's the thing that a lot of people kind of go wrong with, because a lot of times there's that mentality of arriving, right? People have a little bit of success in something, no matter what it is. They have a little bit of success. They think it's almost that mentality, thinking that they've mastered it when they really haven't. Right. You just got to get there. You just kind of got decent at it. Right. Yeah. So people stop developing themselves at that juncture. Right. Or even if you get to an elite scale, most skills in life are depreciable. That's a fact of life. So if you don't keep honing all those skills, or you don't keep feeding your brain or keep educating yourself, you will lose most of those skills. You won't be as good at those things. It's the same thing as developing those habits, right? So even on things that or you have the assumption that or have the ability of knowing, that you kind of stop educating yourself on those aspects or growing yourself, because there's that kind of that mentality of arriving mentality, right? Versus even if it's something that you think that you are fairly confident in, or sit up there, that you still don't keep getting a different perspective, right? Sometimes it's about perspective also, right? And so it's one of those things. So you never want to stop learning in the same juncture, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Talk about the mindset, because I think this is something that challenged a lot of people. The difference between the mindset of a business owner and the mindset of an employee. How do you make that change? I mean, again, I find that before you launch it,
you're trying to get it under my crawl, aren't you?
I am. I find that people come into this business at the various levels, right? You came in this level, probably this business is somewhere around 80, 90% out of 100. All you really needed was the pieces of the puzzle for life insurance business. But you, as an individual, were that 90%, where you had it all together: mindset, motion. You were investing in yourself. You did the workouts. You for the most part, you had it together. Some people come in this business at 20%. They got nothing going for them. They've had a difficult time. They've been through a divorce. They need an opportunity to change their life financially and just the quality of their life, and they're down here at 20%. And I think through personal development, I've got 2 books in my I'm going through right now, which is this Secrets of a Millionaire Mind and this Atomic Habits book. I really believe this. I told my mentor this, and my mentor told me this. I've always been a reader. I struggle with on the audio stuff. Because again, I tend to multitask. I like holding the book. I do. It's interesting when I'm driving. Audiobooks work for me because I have this windshield in front of me, but audiobooks around my office don't work because I'll start surfing and it's playing in my ear, but I'm not listening. So I like holding a book. But again, going back to what I'm saying, I think personal development, investing in yourself, take 15 minutes, one chapter a day in a book like this. You can move that person over time from 20% to 80%. And then the rest of that 20% that's missing is actual mindset, success skills in the area that they want to succeed in. But, that being said, there is a big difference between an employee mindset and a business mindset. Being in business for yourself, you've got to have certain things wired correctly in your brain. to succeed here, because you're not going to get paid to show up like you do at a job. You're going to have to be intentional and be present. Talk about that for a second.
It's like we've talked about this ourselves, in the past, in on team calls and stuff. Is that it's always blown me away of the people that they'll give themselves to an employer, right? They will do they'll go out of their way for an employer. They ask for it, they'll do it, and they'll do all this stuff, but they won't do it for themselves. That just blows me away, and by at a proportions that I can't even imagine. It's like because if even a quarter of the people that sit up there, it would blow us away that took that same mentality that they have when they work for an employer to their own business. Because isn't it ironic, Steve? Because you have that person that will do those activities, they'll bend over backwards for that employer, but they'll still be complaining in the backyard to their friends and everything else about, God damn, I got to go work tomorrow. I got to do this. They'll be complaining about it and do it, but they still do it, right? Even though they're complaining about it, they still do it, and they still bend over. Why? Because they're paying their paycheck, right? And versus, and it boils down to that. It's funny. There's going to be a pattern. It feels like there's going to be a pattern to this podcast today. Is it boils down to your confidence, right? Because why do people not do that for their own business? It boils to confidence, right? It's sitting up there because taking orders, Steve, that's easy. Sitting there just taking orders for somebody versus trying to push and do something for yourself, right? Instead
by the current political atmosphere we're in, people are good at taking orders, right?
Yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah.
Tend to be robotic.
If people transition that mentality to their business, and it boils down to this also, is a lot of times, I mean, where people go wrong is it when they're doing their own business, it's that mentality of arriving. Oh, I'm a business owner now. All of a sudden, I'm a business owner. I don't have to work, or I get to make my own hours, or I got to do all this. Which the mentality that I always had to preach this for years, right? Is that actually a lot of times when you own your own business, you actually have to work a little harder.
Yeah.
Right? You actually have to put in more effort, especially at the beginning. Especially, you have not earned. Now, hear me now. If you get anything out of this podcast today, hear me now. You don't earn the right to take time off until your business is productive and consistent. You do not earn the right. If you approach your business with that mentality, you will take your business to new strides. Because what happens is when you create that roller coaster for your business, that you will never take that next step forward, because you're going to be on that roller coaster going up and down. You may have a good day, you have a bad day, and those bad days actually start wearing on you more than those good days, keep you positive, right? The negative always outweighs the positive.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're not mentally strong, right? That, if the average person, even when the negative is less, even when there's more positive than negative, that negative weighs you down more than the positive lifts you up, right? So it's making sure that you're approaching your business with a different mindset. Is that I have to put more work in, I have to put more activity, I have to do this, I have to do that. All the things that you need to do, not all the things that you would like to get to. Yes, everybody wants to strive to go, whatever, you take 5 vacations a year, whatever, think anything glamorous that you can think of. Everybody wants to get to that point, but you have to earn that right.
That's right.
And that's where everybody goes wrong, is that they give themselves that right before they've even earned it. You need to, if you approach it a little bit more, that you need to earn that right to yourself, earn that right to your family, right? You got to look at it this way. Is it, if I take this time off, I risk not putting put the food on the table for my family next month. If I take today off, or this week, or this morning, I think of what a lot of people miss is that simple choice of that one decision on whether they eat or they don't. Right? And we'll kind of go back to my car story, right? When I sit up there, if I made that decision to just call it a day, my car broke down, there's nothing I can do, that would have cost me thousands of dollars. That is a difference whether my family eats or not.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're having rough days or rough weeks or rough months, here's the difference here's the difference between somebody like myself looks at that when a month or a week or a day doesn't go. I don't look for the reasons on why somebody or something else was holding me back, why it wasn't there. I don't look for reasons to blame it on everything else. What did I not do that I could have done? What did I not do right? I take ownership. I take ownership of my own business, of my own decisions, because no matter what gets thrown your way, there's always going to be stuff that gets thrown at you. Always. There's no way around it. This is a hard, cruel world, right? This world will beat you down if you allow it to. If you allow life to beat you down, it will. You can allow it to beat you down, or you can push out and fight your way to the top, right? And sit up there. So it boils down to earning that right? Are you in the grind to accomplish what you want to accomplish, right? Yeah. And making the proper decisions, right? And it's you are able to create those habits. It boils back to those habits, right? If you start creating those habits, it makes your decision making gets a lot easier on the choices that you make, right? And I know I'm kind of going all over the place on this topic there, but it's kind of wanted to kind of try to bring it all home a little bit. But it's people make it more difficult than it needs to be honest with you.
I agree.
It just kind of blows me away. Take a little bit of self-ownership. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They always look for excuses why somebody or something else stopped them from being able to do something, versus taking a self-reflection. What could I have done differently? Yeah. What could I have done change? What should I change? What did I not do? Analyze it. Start consciously thinking about this stuff. Take notes. If you are really trying to be proactive on getting better, just getting better as a person in general, take notes on some of the decisions. I failed at this because I neglected to do this. Sometimes everybody retains the information in their brain differently, right? Some people are more visual. Some people are more audible. Whatever it is, put it on something. So if you write the note down. If you're not a visual person, take the note, record it on your phone. Have a reminder and a refresher for when that action or that activity, whatever it was, happens again. You have the information that you fed to yourself earlier, right? In period of life, right? And it's anyways, I digress.
Yeah. I want to go back to a couple of things. One is that, look, going back to excuses, my dad used to tell me all the time that, they never allowed the word divorce in any conversations they had in the house, because once you allow yourself the option or even discussing divorce, you now have allowed it to be an option, right? Failure has to be an option. Quitting cannot be an option. And that's my issue with Plan B. If you all are always looking for the next opportunity, you haven't really dedicated yourself to the one that you're in. See, I don't want to, I push that kind of stuff away from me, because I'm all in with this opportunity, and have been for many, many years. I don't care what else is going on, because I've dedicated myself to this one, right? So that's the first thing. And when Josh talked about the I didn't finish my thought process on this one. I'll finish it here in just a second. That push in, push out is that most people, and I've coached thousands over the last many years. Most people push out when they are hit with any kind of adversity rather than push in. And that's the problem, right? You should be, if you're 0 for 12 in your sales appointments and you close nothing, rather than doing less, you should be doing more, right? Because it's about, and Josh talked about it, it's about the law of large numbers. Your only defense is your activity, period. Do more, not less. When somebody comes to me and says, oh God, they were rambling on for 20 minutes about how bad their week was and the leads, and, I got to get some leads and they were crap and blah, blah, blah. What should I do? It's a very simple answer. Do more. Do more. First analyze what you're doing and see if you've deviated from the system. But outside of that, it's just a matter of doing more. It will turn around. It always does. Start tweaking everything now. And trying to, it's like playing golf. When you get somebody that's on, playing golf with, and as soon as you hit a bad shot, they all want to chime in and give you golf lessons when they're all shooting 110 themselves. Right? Be careful who you take your advice. Sometimes it's not that you're broken. You just are going through a period where, you're not getting the results that you expect. And rather than to get sunken into depression and doing less or taking some time off or going on vacation, you should just be doing more because it will turn around. So that's what Josh talked about. Push in, don't push out. Many people push out, and that's why they end up being quitters. So they go from one IMO to the next IMO, one opportunity to the next. They've been doing it all their lives, and sooner or later, as you heard me say before, Josh, you got to stand in front of the mirror and go, "Okay, I've been through 25 different opportunities, and they all sucked." Right? But wait a minute, there are people in those opportunities that were succeeding. So was it the opportunity that sucked, or was it me that sucked? You got to have that honest conversation with yourself if you're going to grow. The last thing is I started going on that tangent a minute ago and didn't finish it, was when Josh car broke down, he had the tenacity that I love, and that is be like an ant. If you ever see a stream of marching ants, there's hundreds of them. They're all heading in the same direction in lockstep. You could drop a brick right in the center, wipe out 100 of them, and what do they do, Josh? The rest of the ants just go right around the block. They keep going. They walk right by the dead bodies of their comrades, and they keep going. They're always going. They don't turn around and go back, do they, Josh? They don't turn around and go back. They don't sit there and think about it, have a meeting about, the rest of us could die. They don't. You can tell they don't even think about it. They're going forward. I mean, I think that's the best analogy. I'm getting me a T-shirt. Be like an ant. Don't keep going forward. Stay in the lane. Stay in the path. Keep going forward. Trust the process. Just get better and do more. So, be careful. Words matter. Words matter. Stop talking about every other opportunity you might want to get into. Stop looking, because when you're surfing the web for other opportunities, you're basically telling your heart that you're not totally in on this one. And you can't succeed in anything, I don't think, Josh, at a high level unless you're all in. Living, breathing, being willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, no matter what. I will until. Same thing. Wrap it up, Josh.
No, I think this was a great conversation today. I think for those that if you listen to this later, listen up there, I would post some comments down there. If you have a different different thought on anything that we talked on tonight, listen up there. As long as it's educational for others, post it down below. Give us your thoughts. So we'd like to engage with you, kind of see what your thought process is. Maybe we help each other. Sit up there. We're not immune to growing ourselves. We're definitely not no final arbiters to any information, right? Sit up there. We're always growing. We're always moving, right? And how we grow as a society and as people is having those conversations. So post those down below. Ask us. We're more than happy to sit up there and have that conversation with you.
I want to ask you one more thing before we wrap it up, because I know people are they watch this and they go, okay, look, I want to make 30, 40, 50,000 bucks a month working virtually from home, and we can teach you how to do that. We can't give you desire. That's the problem. That you have to bring. We can give you everything else, but you got to bring desire to the opportunity, because I can't give you that. is this a learned skill? Can anyone do, Josh, what you did and what you do every day, every week?
1,000%. 1,000%.
Is there any particular skills they need?
Nope. Zero. Well, okay. You know what? It's not, they're probably not the answer to that. I would say one skill of actually being able to follow direction.
Yeah.
That skill. If you can have that skill of being able to follow direction, that's the only skill that you need. And don't fool yourself. That kind of goes back to the mindset thing. So many people, that's almost another podcast in itself, is a lot of people say that they're coachable and they're learnable that are not, right? A lot of the information that they retain in, it goes through one ear and out the other, and they do the opposite, right? Or they try to invest their own personality into what you're telling them or what they're versus actually following direction, and it's kind of the difference is when I came into this business, because I came from a field where, I ran sales crews and that everything else. And so many of them it got to the point sometimes that I didn't want to hire salesmen because they were the hardest to train. Sit up there. Yes, you may have been good at the field that you were in, but you didn't do this. This is a different ball game, right? In most fields, some stuff's transitional, but not all of it, right? Is that sit up there. And that's where people go wrong, is going, that's fine. Sit up there after you follow direction, you become successful. If some of those things that you used to do in your old craft or whatever are transferable, do that later. Test it, try it, but be coachable now. Right? Follow direction, because anyways, my point that I was getting to, I'm getting off track. The point that I was getting to is that when Steve brought me on, is I told him, I said, forget that I've ever sold anything, that I know anything. I don't know nothing. Just show me the way. This is literally the conversation that I had. I told him, I don't, because I had in my head a stigma of salesmen. I do. And I still do today, is that a lot of salesmen think they already know it all. That they're there. There's not more that you can teach them, right? And I'm lucky enough of being able of a self-aware person that in running sales crews to know that that's quite the opposite. And it's up there, and that's the reason why I'm having this conversation. I'm saying this because this is all learned experience, right? Is that salesmen were actually the hardest to train, and they were the biggest headache because they weren't listening and they were wondering why they're failing, right? And my point being, me being reflective of that and being knowledgeable of that, I never wanted to be that person, right? And especially getting there. So came into this telling Steve, I don't know nothing. Just show me the way. I'll follow direction. And following direction gave me that success in that first 6 months, right? You can have success early. You can, if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to follow direction. That's where everybody goes wrong, is actually not following direction and not truly being coachable. That's where people go wrong. Being truly coachable and actually following direction point by point by point by point. Not which one you feel is more relevant to you or you want to interdict your opinion. That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
This is a new field for you. Point by point by point. That's what I'll say.
Yep. 1,000%. I enjoyed this myself personally. I mean, I think it's a great conversation. I don't care who said it. It's a great conversation. Seriously. And I think coachability is a big issue, and I think people misunderstand what coachability is all about. Well, maybe we'll launch into that one next week. And look, I think again, I 100% with Josh. Leave some comments, share it out, like it, dislike it, whatever you want to do. But confront yourself, I think is the answer here today. With where you're at in your pursuit of success, maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's just about being a better person. I love what we do because what we do makes a difference in people's lives in the insurance business. But maybe it's not insurance for you. Maybe it's something else. But again, if we can help you, you're looking for an opportunity, you're looking to work from home, you want to work virtually, you want to make, up to 7 figures a year. We get people doing that right here. Reach out to us, have a conversation, but that's not what this is about. We're certainly here available for you in that respect. But this is really about trying to, move people that have a big desire. Again, we can't give you that. We can certainly motivate you, but motivation is not lasting. You've got to bring to the table that desire and that work ethic. If you can do that and control that 6 inches between your 2 ears, like my hat says, at least for now, we live in the land of opportunity. And it's a great time to be involved and change your. Look, we're coming out of a very difficult time with COVID, rocked a lot of people's incomes. It is, I think, Josh, the time to be a business owner. It is, you now have to, I struggled for years trying to convince people that anytime you have a secure job, it's not really secure because somebody else can determine how secure that is by taking it away from you. We saw that in the last 24 months. Who would have guessed we would ever have a state and federal agencies closing down your private business, the one that you started with your savings and your hard income, told you couldn't open your doors in the United States of America. That's another conversation. Josh, don't get Josh and I on that one. But the point is you got to own your income, because if you don't, it can be taken away from you, even if it's your own business. I've got personal friends that lost hair salons, restaurants. They were told they couldn't open their doors. They're still being told they couldn't open their doors in some states. Wipe people's wealth out for forever. They got to start over again. In this business, we own our income, and no one could shut us down. All through COVID, we were still making money. In fact, our income tripled during the time because we were still able to do our job because we controlled the shots, not somebody else. And so that's my word for you today. Yep. That's a whole podcast, Josh.
Yep. Well, I think this podcast in the long term will be a great success. If anything that we say in any of these conversations that you get value out of, and it made you make the next choice and move forward in your life and do something positive in your life, we'll be winners. Because I know I can speak for Steve on this, because we've had these conversations. We get a thrill out of people succeeding, right? And being able to be just a small part in helping you make that next step and choice and succeed in yourself. It warms us to no avail. So even if anything that we've said or that we've helped motivate you making that choice or that decision, whatever aspect that is in your life that you've been holding back on, post that in the comments. Share that with others.
Absolutely.
Maybe that will make that next person that reads that comment for them to make the choice for themselves. This is a type of thing that I've said this in the podcast, not to go on there because we're at our end here, it's a spiraling effect. That spiraling effect may actually help motivate somebody else. You, by posting that comment of that choice that you made that bettered yourself, may motivate that person to make that choice also. It's a spiraling effect, and it's contagious.
Yeah.
It's very contagious.
Yeah. Yeah, and we believe in leading by example. And Josh, I got to be honest with you again, going back to when COVID first hit 2 years ago. Maybe we'll talk about this on the next but we had yet to be fully developed our virtual process. By the way, we're years ahead of anybody else in the industry doing virtual sales when it comes to life insurance. Years ahead. We started before COVID, but we weren't totally there yet, and it was uncharted waters, whether we're essential, non-essential, whatever, and we're still getting pushed back. There's a lot of fear going on. Josh, I remember you were sitting in your car. I laughed sometimes. I go, what are you doing? You're sitting in your car on the phone in their driveway doing a presentation, and you would slide the paper under the front door. They'd sign it and stick it back out the door, and you go get it. We did whatever it took. That's desire. See, that's why I'm on this podcast with Josh, because Josh, it leads by example. Nothing derailed him. Nothing derailed our team. We worked right through it. We sat in the driveway. We sat in the yard. We took our own benches, our own stools. We sat on the porch. We did whatever it took because success was not an option.
Thanks for reminding me. I forgot about that. That's true. That's good times. Good times.
Yeah, it was good times. But it just proved that we could have all used that situation as an excuse, Josh. But you refused to be derailed. Be like an ant. Kept moving forward. How? And that's where most of you. Again, we can go over 2 hours. That's where most people miss it. Rather than accept defeat, figure out. Okay. There's positives in this situation. Let me figure out what the positive is. I'm going to keep going forward. I'm not going back. I'm not retreating. Because again, at the end of the day, we have bills to pay. right? So you have to keep going forward. You can't accept defeat. So how do I turn this into a positive? As my mother used to say, turn lemons into lemonade. And that's what I admire about people that are success driven is that nothing derails them. They'll take a punch and they may stumble a bit, but they're going to figure out very quickly how to keep going forward. And if you want something like that as a coach, post it in the comments, reach out to myself or reach out to Josh. We're here to help you. And yeah, that's the mission here is to unlock that innate, ability to dream again and be dream driven. So that whatever your goals are, you're moving forward. Post them in the comments. We look to have it. Josh, I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. And don't forget to like, you guys. Like this video. If you like this information or you feel like we're doing a service, please like it. Granted, obviously, if you thought that we suck and that there's no value here, that's fine. Dislike it. It's up there. But
we can take it.
But the point is, my point of mentioning that is either way, make a choice. Pick one. Right? If anything else, that will give value that we helped you make a decision. So anyways, I digress and see you next week.
Pick one. Action takers. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Do something. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Josh.